Thank you. I was going to ask about that gender thing because, and I have a follow-up question, if I may. But is other than the social and economic implications, is the gender equality in education other than those aspects? You know, are girls allowed to come to every school and every? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, actually, it's when they declared access to free primary education for all, we saw more boys and more girls come back to school. But in the following years, there has been deliberate effort to make sure that girls attend school. And we have seen in the numbers that have come out over the past 5 to 6 years, showing that girls' attendance into schools has significantly improved. Their performance has gone higher. In some cases, they're actually doing better than their boys' counterparts. There is a deliberate effort to make sure that girls come into schools. But when they come into the schools, there are still these other issues that they have to battle with that often seems to set them back, seems to take them back to, that place where they still know equity in terms of access. Because if they're not dealing with the hygiene packs and all these things that comes with sanitary pads and such, they are dealing with issues of having to do extra chores at home, like finding water and finding firewood and doing this and doing that. But in general, government has been very deliberate, and the community and people like us have been very deliberate to ensure that girls are in school and they stay in school. And when big problems like COVID comes, that's a big problem for enterprises like ours and even for government, because when girls stay away out of school for that long, because schools were closed in Kenya for about 8 months because of COVID-19. So when schools are closed for that long, you'll find girls easily being victims of early teenage marriage, early pregnancies, and a lot of labor where they have to go to work and generate additional income for their families. And all these are still setbacks that we see are affecting how girls access education.
Yeah. And funny enough, you've actually picked up on one of the other thing that I was going to say, which I'll mention in a moment. But of course, you're about village to global. And gender equality is one of those village to global issues, isn't it? It's not just happening in Kenya; it's happening around the world.
Exactly.
The girls and women are undervalued and undereducated, etc. And what I was going to say is that through an organisation I'm involved with called Buy One G One, B1 G1, Buy One Give One. I actually make contributions to a school in Kenya around sanitary products for the girls.
Yes.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because these are all, period poverty. I know my daughter is very keen on that campaign in the UK, and globally. But it's all those issues that's hold women, girls and women back from their full potential, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, they are.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that, and for bringing water in. The I hear you with the water. I could imagine you could possibly go through the whole of the SDGs, and there'd be something in there that you would love to help with, because I know there's one about infrastructure, and there's another one about government and things. So, but you can only start. You can only start in one place, really. So
yes.
How what kind of support for people listening to this or whatever? How could we help you? To in the work that you're doing, which is fantastic work.
Yes, I think definitely. Thank you for this question. There is a lot of help I can ask, but of course, we accept that we don't have all the answers to all these problems. The first thing is we work in close collaboration with other people who are doing it. We are stronger in certain areas and other people are stronger in certain areas. So the first thing we look for is collaboration and partnership with people who are also dealing with other SDGs and dealing with other community problems, that we can then work together and be able to lift the weight where someone else is feeling a bit overburdened. So if there are people out there who are willing to collaborate and partner with organizations at grassroots level that are intervening and dealing with some of these issues, of course, our door is open to always pursue that. The other way that people can help those who are listening to us is funding is a big problem and a big challenge. And being a grassroots organization that is not linked or connected to a major international organization or working from a place where we have had this international connection before, just getting our proposals to go through to get some funding that we need is a big challenge. So we are depending on well-wishers, people who give once in a while donations, very limited resources that then needs to be stretched across these challenges that I've mentioned. And this way we are thinking if we can get collaborations and people who understand the kind of interventions we are trying to make and be able to invest in us by first training and making sure that they support us to have the right skills, because we don't have skills and knowledge around all these issues that we are dealing with. And it is rare when you are getting well-wishers and people who support once in a while to be able to consider training and capacity building for the people who are actually undertaking the programs as a major issue. They will prefer that they give you money and this money go directly to buy food for the children. And that is limiting in the sense. So if we can get partners who can come on board and say, look at our whole programming, look at our whole, the way we are anchoring our work and say, we will work with you in this journey, that will give us an opportunity to be able to capacity build ourselves, capacity build the community members that we are working with, because we are working closely with parents, with local leaders and everybody else. Capacity build them in the right way to understand the thematic areas and to be able to work independently of everybody else and be able to bring the results we need. And then the funding also, if it is designed in that way, will really help us in the infrastructure, because infrastructure is a big challenge. When we are talking about a quality school, building a one quality school in a rural community where there is none, we are looking at a considerable amount of money in terms of setting up this school from grassroots up to a functional level. So we are looking at partners who can appreciate that when we build this school, the return is more than just kids being in there. The return will spill over to the households, to the community, because we want to do good schools that inspire people to learn, inspire people to be creative, and that this is what we really want, partners who can understand our concept from the point where when a kid sees the school in the rural village, the school inspires them to learn, inspires them to want to be there and to want to, be part of the solutions later on in life. So if we get partners who understand the issues we are dealing with in this case and understand our concept, that would be a great way to help. But even beyond that, we still need individual people who are just coming in and saying, I'll sponsor a child, maybe for $20 a month, because this is tuition for a child and it will keep that child in school. And if we generate this tuition on a monthly basis, we are able to sustain the school. We are able to make sure that the children have a meal and the school runs. We are able to empower families. If people come in and say, I will support the SAC or the Saving and Credit Cooperative platform, for example, it means when you put in $200, for example, this can be extended to 2 or 3 families in terms of a grant, and it helps them set up. And this is properly structured because they will be trained first, they'll be equipped, they'll be supported, and when they're given the $50, this will go a long way to help them become successful. So there are multiple ways that people can come in and be able to support. But we also don't just say people can support us. Even as we are willing to go an extra mile, we want to be accountable. So when people say we will support you, the first thing we want is to be accountable to those people. So when you work with us, we will be accountable. Number 2, we will share with you all the details and the things that we know, because we understand our communities, we understand our issues. So you will learn a lot from us and from the projects, the way we are doing. You will understand local issues in detail because we engage we work in forums, and we are willing to come and share the evidence and the things and the impact that we have seen at the grassroots, and that helps you become a knowledgeable funder, a knowledgeable supporter of our program. So you're not just doing and you don't understand what is happening. So we see it as a back and forth relationship where you learn from us as we do it, and we also get the resources and account for them in a way that even also the community we support understands that this is not free money. We are receiving this money to empower ourselves to be able to take care of ourselves in future and to be able to help everybody else who needs help at that particular time.
Fantastic, and that's such a you put it across so succinctly and beautifully. Actually, my next question was going to be around you and your passion and your purpose, but just on that. Yes. On that issue, before we go there, it's certainly something I'd love to help you with this beyond this podcast. We will obviously put all the links and things up, but I know that it's www.village2global.org, and then there's a donations page on there. So the link will be with the podcast, but just I thought I would say it out onto the podcast itself. So. I have a very good idea what your passion is and what it is that's brought you into this, but perhaps you could just expand a little bit more on that for us.
Yes, wonderful. I think when I said that I was born in Kenya and raised in Kenya, Kenya has taught me a lot of things, and I was born in a very rural village in Kenya, and growing up. I think you get a feeling that there is everybody else is equal, but all of you are in poverty. So the idea of things being different doesn't exist or didn't exist in my childhood, because being raised in the village, everybody else was barefooted, everybody else walked to school, everybody else came back and there was no food at home. So it seemed normal until when I finished my primary education. That was in 2004. And I did primary education first time, my final exam, I passed. There was no money for me to go to high school. And I stayed home for about 3 months without completely getting help for me to go to high school. And then my headmistress in the primary school invited me to repeat and retake the exam for 1 more year, and hopefully I'll get someone who can be able to assist me go through high school. So I had to repeat again and do my final exam the second time, and I passed very well this time around. And I didn't get any calling letter to secondary school because I think the system didn't recognize me for the second time. But
that's sad.
yeah. And in the first exam, I had 280 points out of 500. That was fairly good. But in the second one, I had 324 points out of 500. It was a major improvement. But the headmistress kept her promise, so she linked me to someone who had started his own school in Nairobi, in the city. And I was carried from the village to the city, just like a parcel. You are told there is someone who is going to help you, and you gather a few things that you can get, and then go and join the school. So when I reached in the city for the first time in my lifetime, I realized, there's a huge difference. There was the rich, and then there was the poor. So I quickly recognized that I was poor. Going with my father used to live in a slum and lived in very difficult places where we could share a toilet. About 20 people, one pit latrine, and it was pathetic. It was difficult. But often when we would close school, I'll just go to the high-end areas where rich people lived. I would walk around those estates and see the difference. So it brought the sense of consciousness to me. So I worked very hard in high school, very, very hard. And I was sponsored by a German sponsor who was paying for my school fees and paying for all the things that I needed. I used to live in school most of the time because I'll get lunch, I'll get breakfast, I'll get even supper, I'll get everything sort of I needed to go through high school. So for 4 years, my life was different from what I was used to in the village. And then when I exited, I had passed very well, qualified to go to university, but not to a point where government would support me. So I had to hustle my way out, and I got a church loan. Finally, I went to university and did development studies, a degree in development studies. That was after I tried my hand in engineering. Of course, I did diploma in mechanical engineering, and then I realized I didn't like it. So I switched and I went back now to development studies. So my own journey in terms of my experience growing up and the struggles I faced, and I'm a fourth born in a family of nine siblings. And none of those had gone beyond primary school. All of them, the elder ones, all of them had dropped somewhere in primary school because of lack of school fees, lack of different challenges. So eventually, I was in a place where I was like the hope for my household. I was the only person they were looking up to. So this inspiration is what helped me and is making me to be very, very passionate that I can uplift one person per family through the schooling system we are doing, through the programs we are doing, and those people can go back to be hopes in their households, and that way we can see people rising up. So I've gone on to
a kind of beacon of light, to show what an example, and it's such an inspiring story, Zach. That's amazing.
Yes.
So
Yes, and I've gone on to even my elder brothers and sisters. They went back now and they are doing adult learning. I'm happy to say our firstborn just finished diploma in her certificate in ECD, early childhood development. After
fantastic.
she left school, after she dropped out of school almost 15, 16 years ago, I inspired her, and through this platform of Inua Village to Global Foundation, each one of them have found a cause to do, have found something to do, and they're inspired to achieve greater things.
That's fantastic.
I think it's possible. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it keeps showing the possibility and hope that there's hope, because you're never too old to learn something new and to take that out and be purposeful about it. I think that's fantastic. Yes. What a brilliant example there. Like you said, that's one of your sisters.
Yes, and for sure, I think the sponsor who sponsored me through secondary school and partly college, and even up to where I am now, the kids who are attending our 3 schools now, who are about 850 in our primary schools, plus the many other people have helped along the way. I think about 1,000 plus that I have supported to get sponsorship or get opportunities. It's a give back to the person who paid for me, that through me, I have been able to, help many others to be able also to realize their dreams. And in one way or another, they're also changing their communities and their families and their lives. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's not just a payback. I mean, I know that's important to you at a personal level, but that individual, just look at the ripples that have gone from him investing in you, you investing in others, with your heart and soul and your education. It ripples outwards. So the impact that individual made goes way beyond his investment in you. And that's what I think is so magical about this, that you never know who it will ultimately touch when you step up and make some kind of commitment to a project like this.
Yes.
Fantastic. Let me see if I think I've covered most of the questions that were on here. We may have done them in a slightly different way. So I don't know if I even framed this up at the beginning, but there's kind of 3 elements to the Water Matters podcast. One is water matters, and we can talk about water related issues as well. But it's also about business and enterprise. I'm a business coach or a life coach for business owners in my working life. And there's also this sense of spirit or soul or heart. And you've beautifully described your heart in the last few minutes there. So thank you so much